Hello friends. Today I'm going to tell you a story about an ordinary young man who embarks on an incredible journey through icy mountains, blazing deserts, raging oceans, and mysterious forests. He will face powerful enemies, meet unusual allies, and confront a darkness that seems unbeatable. But this story is not just about fighting evil. It's about how the light of a single heart can change the entire world. Get ready for a legend that keeps you on the edge of your seat from the first second to the last. Welcome to the Legend of Arin. Far to the east, beyond towering mountains and rushing rivers, lived a young man named Arin. He was neither a warrior nor a sage, but merely the son of a humble fisherman. Yet fate had a path for him far more winding than he could have imagined. One day, a raven of unusual appearance flew into their village, its feathers gleaming like black mirrors. It landed right on the roof of Arin's house and spoke in a human voice. "Your name is written in the Book of Fates. You must set out on a journey to find the Star Stone. If it falls into the hands of darkness, everything around will sink into silence." Arin did not hesitate. He took only his father's knife, his mother's cloak, and set off on his journey. The first trial awaited him in the whispering thicket. There, the trees spoke to each other and tried to lead travelers astray. Every step echoed, and shadows thickened around him. But Arin did not fall for the trickery. He remembered his mother's words that the truth always sounds softer than lies. He closed his eyes, focused on the whisper of the wind, and found the path out. The second trial awaited him at the Tower of Mists, where an old hermit, the keeper of ancient knowledge, lived. The elder would let no one pass who could not solve his riddle. The riddle went, "What grows stronger the more you share it?" Arin thought for a moment and answered, "Goodness." The hermit smiled and gave him a glowing crystal, saying, "It will protect you from the darkness." But the greatest challenge lay ahead. In the heart of the mountain pass, Arin faced the Lord of Darkness himself, the black sorcerer Morker. He held the Starstone in his hands, its glow already dimming. The battle was unequal. The sorcerer called down lightning and shattered rocks, while Arin barely managed to dodge. But in the most desperate moment, the young man raised the crystal given by the hermit. Light blazed from it so brightly that the darkness shattered. The stone flew from Morker's hands, and it ignited with 1,000 stars. The sorcerer vanished, leaving only a cloud of smoke, and Arin realized he had become the new keeper of the Starstone. He returned to his village a changed man, no longer a simple fisherman, but a hero who had saved the entire world from doom. And though many roads still lay ahead, he knew the most important thing: goodness truly grows stronger when it is shared. And from that time on, in the night sky, a bright star could always be seen, reminding everyone, even the simplest person is capable of great deeds if their heart is pure. They say that the stars are the eyes of the heavens, watching over the fate of every living being. When Arin returned to his native village, the glow of the Starstone still burned in his hands, and everyone around believed that darkness had been defeated and the world would finally find peace. But true legends rarely end at the very moment when a hero achieves their first victory. Usually, it is only the beginning of a journey, when invisible threads of fate begin to intertwine into an even more complex pattern. And then, one night, when a new star appeared over the sea, a whisper sounded in his heart. "The stone is not yours. It belongs to the world. Its light must be divided." Thus began Arin's new journey. It all began when the sky changed. It seemed as if the stars trembled for a moment, as if someone had traced their paths with a hand. The fishermen stopped going out to sea, the birds fell silent, and the village elders gathered around the fire and said to Arin, "You have returned the light, but the world is still in danger. The balance is broken. The stone cannot be kept in one place, or darkness will return." Arin listened and realized that the peace he had hoped for was deceptive. A new journey awaited him. That night, he had a dream. The raven, the same one that had once led him to his first trial, returned. Its eyes glowed, and its voice sounded firmer than before. "Four corners of the world await you. To the north sleeps the ice giant. To the south burns the desert sea. To the west rages the endless ocean. To the east hides a forest, older than time itself. There you will find vessels in which the power of the stone must be placed. Only then will the world find balance." Arin woke in a cold sweat. At dawn, he packed his travel bag, hugged his mother and father goodbye, and set out once more. A new, longer path awaited him. The north greeted him harshly. The wind cut at his skin, snow lashed his face, and the road stretched into an endless sea of white. Yet, in this icy wilderness lived ancient tribes who worshipped the spirits of the cold. Arin walked for a long time until he met a girl with silver hair. She introduced herself as Liana and said that her people guarded the first chalice of the stone's power. But the path to it led through the Valley of Eternal Dreams, where every traveler risked falling asleep forever. They set out together. Liana could make fire even in the icy wind and knew songs that drove despair away. When they reached the valley, the land was shrouded in mist. Voices could be heard within it, those of loved ones, of people long gone. Arin thought he heard his mother calling him home. But Liana placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "This is a trick. Don't listen to the voices, listen to your heart." And Arin endured the trial. At the end of the path, they found a hall of ice, where a giant slept, more like a mountain than a being. His breath thundered like a storm. Liana whispered, "Only the light can awaken him." Arin touched the chalice with the starstone, and its glow spread throughout the hall. The giant opened his eyes, but did not unleash his fury. He knelt before Arin, recognizing him as the keeper. Thus, the first power of the stone found its place. After the icy mountains of the northern lands, Arin's path turned south. There, where the sun burned without mercy and the sand stretched to the horizon, began the desert sea. The desert did not forgive mistakes. By day it scorched the skin and blinded the eyes, and by night it turned into a cold kingdom of winds. But the most dangerous threat was not the heat or the cold. In the sands lived ghostly spirits, mirages that led travelers astray until they collapsed from exhaustion. Arin walked alone, but on the third day he met a strange companion. A man in a tattered cloak, with a sly smile and nimble hands, introduced himself as Kale. Arin noticed that he skillfully stole water from caravan guards, yet shared it with children and the elderly. "You're a thief," said Arin. "I am," replied Kale, "but not from the weak, only from the greedy. And I know the way through the desert sea. Without me, you won't make it." Arin had no choice, and they traveled together. The days in the desert were grueling. Sometimes Kale pointed the way, sometimes he disappeared, vanishing into the sands, only to return with water or dates. And though Arin did not fully trust him, he realized that even a thief could become a friend in such trials. On the seventh night, they saw a city in the distance, ghostly towers glowing with light, calling travelers, promising rest. But Kale warned, "This is an illusion. Those who go there never return. Hold my hand and don't look." Arin obeyed. They passed by, and the city vanished like a mirage. Finally, in the heart of the desert, they found an ancient temple buried beneath the sand. Inside lay the second chalice of the stone's power. Guarding it was a sand serpent, enormous as a whole dune, its body hissing, eyes glowing amber. Arin prepared for battle, but Kale shouted, "Not with a sword! Comet!" Arin remembered one of Liana's songs he had heard in the northern mountains. He sang. His voice trembled, but note by note it fell into rhythm, and the serpent relaxed, coiling into a ring. Thus, the light of the starstone filled the second chalice. Kale grinned. "Well, now we're both heroes. Maybe I should stay your companion? I think adventures will still suit you." And Arin did not object. From the south, the path led west, to where storms raged and waves thundered. The west belonged to the endless ocean, home to seafaring tribes and captains who believed in the ancient laws of the sea. Arin and Kale reached a port that smelled of resin, fish, and salt. There they met a female captain named Neve. Her ship was called the Silver Sail, said to be faster than the wind. But Neve had her own price for help. "I will take you to the place where the third chalice is hidden, but only if you help me. My people suffer from a sea monster that destroys ships and drags them to the depths." So Arin found himself among sailors. Waves crashed against the hull, the wind tore at the sails, but his heart was filled with joy. The sea called to him, as if it were alive. On the third night of the voyage, the depths erupted in splashes. Tentacles thicker than masts rose from the abyss. The creature was enormous, an ancient kraken, whose eyes burned with green light. The sailors, desperate, grabbed harpoons. Kale hid behind a barrel. But Arin stepped forward. He raised the starstone, and the sea responded. The water shone like thousands of tiny suns, and the kraken froze. Its eyes no longer glowed with malice. Now they reflected only weary submission. The creature sank back into the depths, clearing the path. Neve looked at Arin as if seeing him for the first time, not just as a boy, but as someone capable of changing the fate of entire worlds. She led him to a distant island, where in a cave of pearl stone lay the third chalice. When the light of the starstone filled it, the ocean calmed, and the sky cleared of storms. "You are not just a keeper," Neve said. "You are someone the sea itself acknowledges. Remember this when your final journey comes." When Arin and his companions turned east, the path changed. There was no snow, no sand, and no salty ocean wind. The east greeted them with a wall of forest, so dense that even sunlight could not pierce through its canopy. The trees were ancient and seemed alive. Their roots intertwined, forming arches, and their branches twisted into patterns, as if secret signs were woven into them. No birds could be heard, only the rustle of leaves, like the forest's breath. "This is the forest without time," Liana said as she stepped onto its threshold. "Here, past and future intertwine. If you stumble, you might live 100 years in a single instant, or be lost forever." Kale laughed nervously. "Sounds like a place where a thief like me could find a few extra lives." But his laughter quickly faded. In the forest, they all felt that someone was watching. The path grew more difficult. Sometimes they saw their own reflections in the streams, but the reflections moved differently than they did. Sometimes the road led them to places they had already been, as if the forest were playing with them, forcing them to walk in circles. On the third day, they met a boy who said he was looking for his mother. He asked them to guide him, but Liana whispered to Arin, "Do not trust him. This is not a child. The forest plays with our hearts." Indeed, when Arin did not reach out to the boy, he vanished, turning into a cloud of leaves. Finally, they reached ancient gates covered in moss and runes. Before them sat a guardian, neither beast nor human, but a being with wings made of foliage and eyes full of centuries. "Whoever enters will lose a part of themselves," he said. "Only those willing to give will gain the power." Arin stepped forward. He realized the forest demanded a sacrifice. He gave a memory, the image of his childhood room, smelling of fish and bread, where his mother sang him a lullaby. His heart tightened, but the gates opened. Inside, he found the fourth chalice and placed the light of the starstone into it. The forest grew still, and for the first time, the birds sang. "Balance is almost restored," the guardian said. "But know this, the one who awakened the darkness has not vanished. He waits to return it." When all four chalices were filled with light, Arin realized his journey was not yet complete. The stone shone brighter than ever, but he also felt that somewhere nearby, a new darkness was gathering. His companions had now become his family. Liana, who had taught him to listen to his heart. Kale, who joked even in the face of danger. Neve, the captain with eyes full of storms. Each of them had faced their own trials with Arin, and now together they were heading to the valley where, according to prophecy, the fate of the world would be decided. But along the way, they were intercepted by Morker's messengers. It turned out the sorcerer had not perished in the mountains. He had survived and grown stronger, allying himself with the shadow, an ancient creature that slept beneath the earth. Arin's path was blocked by warriors in black armor, their eyes empty, as if their souls had been stolen. The battle was fierce. Liana wove spells, Kale darted among the enemies like the wind, and Neve fought with a sword that gleamed like lightning. Arin raised the Starstone, and its light tore through the darkness. Morker's warriors scattered, like ash carried away by the wind. But after the battle, they all understood this was only the beginning. Ahead awaited the great battle for the dawn, when the shadow itself would rise from the depths. When the last enemies crumbled to dust, the ground beneath their feet trembled. At first, it was a light shake, like the echo of distant thunder, then stronger and stronger, until cracks split the stones, as if the very earth could not bear what was awakening. From these cracks rose black smoke. It coiled and climbed toward the sky, eventually forming a familiar shape. Before Arin and his companions appeared Morker once again. But now he was different. His skin had turned a marble pale. His eyes were bottomless voids, and instead of hands, shadows flowed, enveloping his body. "You thought you had defeated me, boy," he said, his voice echoing with hundreds of other voices. "But I have only awakened what has slept beneath the earth for centuries. Darkness is not the enemy. Darkness is the foundation. And light is just a spark that dies in the wind." The earth split even wider, and from its depths rose a creature. It had no shape, as if night itself had come alive, countless tentacles, jaws that changed form, eyes that flared and vanished. This was the Shadow, an ancient being once imprisoned in the depths of the world. Arin's companions felt true fear for the first time. Liana gripped his hand, Kale turned pale and could not find a joke, and Neve held her sword hilt tighter than ever. "We can't," whispered Liana. "We must," replied Arin. Morker laughed. "You gathered the light into 4 chalices, but that very act gave me power. While you wandered the world, I awakened what cannot be defeated. You became my ally, without even knowing it." With these words, he dissolved into swirling smoke and vanished. The creature, the Shadow, slowly retreated into the depths, but it did not disappear. It waited. And then Arin understood. Their final battle awaited. Not for the chalices, not for the stone, but for the very existence of the world itself. They sheltered in an abandoned temple on the mountainside. The stone columns were broken, the roof half collapsed, but it was quiet enough there to gather their thoughts. "We won't defeat that creature," Kale spoke first. "I know how to steal, I know how to run, but even I can see, this is not an enemy of flesh and blood. It is the abyss itself." Neve laid her hand on the sword's hilt. "Even the abyss can tremble if you strike at its heart. Every enemy has a weak spot." Liana looked at Arin. "The stone. The light of the Starstone is the only thing that can hold the Shadow back. But the price will be high. Whoever uses its power to the end may not remain the same." Arin was silent. He felt the pulse of the Starstone as if the heart of the world beat in his hands. He knew the choice would have to be his. The night stretched on endlessly. They sat by the fire, remembering what they had endured: the snowy wastes, the desert mirages, the sea storms, and the forest's whisper. Each of them understood it had all been not merely a trial, but preparation. At dawn, Arin stood. "We go," he said, "and if I must give everything, I will. But the light must remain in the world." His companions nodded in silence. In that moment they all knew there was no turning back. First came silence. A strange, heavy silence, as if the whole world had frozen, holding its breath. Even the wind fell still, even the birds in the sky dared not beat their wings. Only a distant hum remained, steady and heavy, like the beating of a heart beneath the earth. Then the ground trembled. At first a faint ripple over the stones, then thunderous rolls, as if the planet itself were about to split in two. Black smoke burst from the depths of the valley, and behind it, the shadows' tentacles. They reached for the sky, wrapped around cliffs, tore down trees, and in every movement there was a power older than mountains and oceans. Arin's companions stood beside him. Liana raised her hands, and her voice rose in an ancient song, filling the air with silver light. Kale drew 2 daggers, ready to dart where the enemy would be weakest. Neve lifted her sword, its blade catching the first rays of dawn. But before them lay a formless darkness. It was useless to strike it with a sword or pierce it with an arrow. Every movement of the shadow turned the earth into chaos, and only the light of the starstone held back its assault. Arin raised the stone above his head. It shone so brightly that the night itself trembled, and power burst from his chest as if he himself had become a vessel for the light. "Balance!" Liana cried. "You must unite the lights of the chalices, or we will all perish." Then Arin understood. Their journey to the 4 corners of the world had not been in vain. A fragment of light slept now in each vessel, and he had to awaken them and bind them into one. He stepped forward. A shadow tentacle struck the ground a meter from him, scattering rocks. But Arin did not stop. He fixed his gaze on the horizon, on the places where the 4 directions lay, and lifted the stone. North, and the cold radiance of ice flared across the sky. South, and the sands gleamed with gold. West, and the ocean heaved walls of light. East, and the forest unfurled its canopy, emitting a green flame of life. The 4 beams met in Arin's stone, and the light cut through the darkness. The shadow roared. Its voice was like thunder, thousands of voices at once. It surged forward, and for a moment it seemed the light could not hold. Tentacles struck, cliffs shattered, the darkness thickened, and each time it felt as if one more moment would mean the end. Kale shouted as he hurled himself at one of the tentacles to distract it. Liana fell to her knees, continuing to sing. Her voice broke but did not stop. Neve stood before Arin like a wall, taking each blow. Yet the stone cracked in Arin's hands. There was not enough light. Then he understood. He must not hold the power. He must give it away. Give it completely, without reserve. Not to himself, to the world. He closed his eyes. A wave of warmth rose in his chest. Faces flashed through his memory. His mother, his father, his village, the laughter of children, the seas, the mountains, the forests. All that he had journeyed for. He poured it into the light. The stone flared so brightly the world went blind. Beams flew in every direction, pierced the shadow through and through, and it screamed. Its roar echoed across all lands. The darkness writhed, contracted, tried to break free, but the light tore it apart. The tentacles scattered like smoke. Eyes went dark. And at last the shadow collapsed, dissolving into the rays of dawn. The world exhaled. The sun rose above the horizon, its light cleaner than ever before. Arin fell to his knees. The stone was no longer in his hands. It had crumbled to dust that scattered into the sky and turned into new stars. "You did it," Liana whispered, catching him. Kale laughed through his tears. "Unbelievable, lad. Even I couldn't have pulled off such a theft, stealing darkness from the very abyss." Neve lowered her sword and allowed herself a smile for the first time. "The world belongs to you, Keeper." But Arin shook his head. "No, the world belongs to the light, and to everyone who keeps it." Many days passed after the great battle. The land slowly healed. Where the shadow had once stood, fields now bloomed. The ocean waters grew clearer, the deserts sent up green shoots, and in the northern mountains people saw a gentle spring for the first time in centuries. Arin and his companions returned to the village. They were greeted as heroes, with songs, bread, and lights in the houses. But Arin himself was no longer the boy who had once left home with his father's knife and his mother's cloak. In his eyes shone the light he had given to the world. He no longer held the Starstone, for the stone no longer existed. Yet everyone felt that a piece of its light lived in each of them. Kale did not stay long in the village. He said, "I'm called back to the road. The world is large, and where there is light, there will be shadow. Someone must watch that the balance is not broken." He winked and slipped away into the crowd like the wind. Neve returned to the sea. The silver sail once again cut through the waves. But now the sailors knew their captain had steered the ship not only through storms, but into legend. Liana stayed by Arin's side. She healed the sick, taught children to hear the voices of the wind, and always said that every person is a vessel for light, if only they choose to kindle it. And Arin? He lived among his people again, helping fishermen mend nets and listening to tales by the fire. Yet sometimes at night he would lift his eyes to the sky. There, among the myriad stars, burned one particularly bright, a new star that had been kindled on the day he gave the stone to the world. People called it Arin's star, and everyone who looked upon it knew, even the simplest person can do great things if their heart is full of light. Thus the legend ended. But perhaps it had only just begun, in songs, stories, and the hearts of those who believe that goodness will always be stronger than darkness.